He was left abandoned in the woods with nothing. Lila told Marcus Hale he should be grateful. Grateful that he wasn't completely alone. Grateful that someone like her was there to help him when he lost his job. But that help didn't last long. That supposedly had helped him as long as they could wasn't help at all. But standing there at 52 years old, holding a single duffel bag with everything he still owned, Marcus realized something that settled deep in his chest. He hadn't been helped. He had been slowly, carefully removed. When his daughter closed the front door behind him and didn't open it again, Marcus understood. This wasn't temporary. This was the end of the life he had spent 30 years building. Marcus Hale had never been the kind of man people noticed. He didn't talk loud, didn't chase big dreams, didn't take risks. For nearly 3 decades, he worked at the same manufacturing plant just outside town. Maintenance supervisor. The guy who fixed things when they broke and stayed late when nobody else wanted to. He believed in simple things. Pay your bills. Take care of your family. Fix what you can. Endure what you can't. And for most of his life, that had been enough. After his wife passed away when their daughter Lila was just 14, Marcus became everything. Father, mother, provider. He learned how to braid hair by watching videos late at night. Burned dinners until he figured out how to cook something halfway decent. Sat through school events after 10-hour shifts with grease still under his fingernails. He wasn't perfect, but he showed up. Every time. Lila grew up sharp, driven, different from him. She didn't want a small life, didn't want routine. By her mid-20s, she was deep into online business, flipping products, chasing fast money, talking about investments Marcus didn't fully understand. At first, he was proud. Then he was confused. Eventually, he became a tool. Dad, I just need your help with some paperwork. That's how it started. She explained it quickly. Too quickly. Refinancing. Lower rates. Temporary use of the house for leverage. Marcus trusted her. Not because he understood, but because she was his daughter. The first warning came in the mail. A letter marked urgent. Then another. Then a phone call. Numbers Marcus had never seen before attached to debts he didn't know existed. When he asked Lila, she brushed it off. I've got it handled. But she didn't. 3 months later, she finally told the truth. Not all of it. Just enough. I used the house as collateral. Marcus sat there in silence. The same living room he had painted twice. The same floor he had repaired with his own hands. Why? He asked. I was going to fix it, she said quickly. The deal just didn't work out. The debt was over $120,000. There was no fixing it. There was no backup plan. And there was no saving the house. For the next 30 days, Marcus packed up his life. Not everything. Just what fit. Clothes. A toolbox. A few photos. His wife's old watch. The rest stayed behind. Not because he didn't want it, but because there was nowhere to take it. On the final morning, Lila didn't help him carry anything. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, already mentally moved on. I found you somewhere to go, she said. Marcus nodded slowly. A shelter. That's what he expected. What he didn't expect was what came next. They drove for almost an hour. Past town. Past anything familiar. Into land Marcus didn't recognize. Then Lila turned onto a narrow dirt road. Trees closed in on both sides. No houses. No signs. No reason to be there. Marcus felt it then. Something wasn't right. Where are we going? He asked. Lila didn't answer right away. Finally, she said quietly, I can't keep taking care of you. Marcus blinked. What? You don't have money. You don't have a plan. I've done what I can. The car stopped. Just like that. In the middle of nowhere. Lila got out, opened the trunk, and set his bag on the ground. Marcus didn't move. Lila. She avoided his eyes. There's a road about 3 miles back. You'll figure something out. That was it. No apology that meant anything. No hesitation. She got back in the car and drove away. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't a prank. And she didn't turn back around. Didn't even glance. Back at her father. That she left alone in the woods with no shelter. Far away from any help. Marcus stood there long after the dust settled. At 52 years old, no home, no car, sold to help Lila, no real money. He lost his job not too long ago, and no one coming back for him. This was real and not a joking matter, but a dangerous situation that Lila has put Marcus into. For a few minutes, he didn't move, didn't think, didn't even feel. Then something inside him, something quiet but stubborn, pushed through. Never has he been so disappointed in Lila. Until today, he could forgive the money, he could forgive the loss of their home. But to be abandoned, forgotten, by his own flesh and blood, was she even his daughter? To Marcus, at this moment, Lila was a complete stranger to him now. He picked up his bag and his toolbox and started walking, not toward where she pointed. Marcus didn't trust anything she said anymore. Instead, he followed an overgrown path cutting deeper into the trees. If there was anything out here, an old structure, a shed, anything, it would be along something like this. That was his thinking. Not hope, just logic. After nearly 2 hours, his legs were shaking. The sun was dropping, and then he saw it. At first, it looked like debris, rust, metal, something unnatural against the trees. But as he got closer, it took shape. A rail car, an old freight train car, half sunken into the earth, covered in vines and moss. Abandoned, forgotten, and intact. Marcus stepped closer, hand brushing against the cold metal. The door was partially open. Inside dark but dry. No collapse. No major damage. Just empty space. He stood there for a long moment, then let out a quiet breath. Well, he muttered, guess this'll do. That first night was cold, hard, uncomfortable in every way. But for the first time since being thrown out, Marcus had something. Not a home, but shelter. The next morning, he got to work, because that's what he had always done. He cleared the inside first. Old debris, rust flakes, broken boards. He used his toolbox, what little he had, to scrape, pry, and make space. It wasn't pretty, but was usable. Then he focused on water. You don't last long without it. He walked the surrounding area for hours until he found a small stream. Not clean, but flowing. That was enough. Using cloth from an old shirt, charcoal from a small fire, and layered stones, Marcus built a basic filtration system. Crude, slow, but it worked. Food came next. At first, it was what little he had brought. Then whatever he could find. Berries he recognized. Wild greens. Later, small traps. It wasn't easy, but it was survival. Days turned into a routine. Morning, water, food, repairs. Afternoon, gathering materials. Night, rest and thinking. The rail car slowly changed. Marcus patched holes with scrap metal. Used branches and leaves for insulation. Built a raised sleeping platform from broken planks. Rain came, and with it, opportunity. Marcus rigged a collection system using the curved metal roof. Water funneled into containers he found scattered nearby. Cleaner than the stream. Reliable. Weeks passed, and something unexpected happened. The place started to feel intentional. He added shelves. A cooking area outside made from stones. A small fire pit. Even a chair, if you could call it that, built from scrap and rope. It wasn't just survival anymore. It was creation. For the first time in years. Marcus wasn't fixing someone else's life. He was building his own. Months later, the rail car didn't look abandoned anymore. It looked lived in, thought out, cared for. And Marcus? He didn't look like a man who had lost everything. He looked like a man who had learned exactly what he needed, and nothing more. The man who had been thrown away had built something no one could take from him again. By the third month, Marcus had stopped thinking of the rail car as temporary. It wasn't something he had found anymore. It was something he was building. Winter crept in slowly. The nights grew colder first. Then the mornings. Frost began to cling to the metal walls, turning the inside of the rail car into something that felt more like a freezer than a shelter. Marcus knew this was the real test. Surviving a few weeks was one thing. Surviving winter was something else entirely. He adapted, because that's what he had always done. He reinforced the walls using layers of insulation he made himself. Old fabric, dry leaves, packed dirt between wooden panels he scavenged from broken pallets nearby. It wasn't perfect, but it trapped heat. He built a small stove using a metal drum he found half buried near the tracks. Cut a vent hole. Added a pipe using scraps of rusted tubing. It smoked at first, filled the space with thick air. But after adjusting airflow, it worked. Fire became his lifeline, not just for warmth, for food, for water purification, for sanity. Food became harder to find. Berries were gone. Plants died back. Marcus adjusted again. He built better traps, learned patterns, where animals moved. When they moved, he failed a lot. Empty traps, lost time. But each mistake taught him something, and slowly it worked. By the time the first real snow fell, Marcus wasn't scrambling anymore. He was ready. The rail car held. The fire stayed lit. And Marcus endured. It was in the middle of that winter that something shifted. Not outside. Inside him. For the first time in his life. There was no one depending on him. No expectations. No pressure. No one asking for anything. And instead of feeling empty, he felt free. Spring came slowly. But when it did, it changed everything. The land around him came alive again. And Marcus saw something he hadn't before. Opportunity. Not just to survive, but to build something better. He started planting. Small at first. Seeds from scraps. Vegetables he had saved pieces from. He cleared a patch of land beside the rail car. Turned soil by hand. Used ash from his fire to enrich it. It wasn't farming. Not yet. But it was a start. Water became more reliable. Food became more consistent. And for the first time, Marcus wasn't just reacting to life. He was shaping it. The rail car became something else entirely. Not just shelter. A home. And Marcus, the man who had been left with nothing, was no longer trying to get his old life back. Because what he was building now was something stronger. Something no one could sign away. No one could borrow against. No one could take. And far away from the place he had been abandoned, Marcus Hale finally understood something simple. Losing everything had forced him to become someone who needed less. And in that, he had gained more than he ever lost. By the time summer returned, Marcus Hale had been living in the rail car for nearly a year. What had once been a place of last resort had become something else entirely. From a distance, you wouldn't recognize it anymore. The rusted metal still showed through in places, but now it was surrounded by life. Rows of small crops stretched out beside it. Makeshift fencing built from branches and wire. A water system that carried collected rain into barrels, then into shallow channels Marcus had carved by hand. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. And more importantly, it grew. Marcus had learned something most people never do. You don't need everything. You just need enough, and the ability to keep going. The first real sign that his life was changing again came quietly. A sound he hadn't heard in months. Voices. Marcus froze. Standing near the edge of his small garden, he listened carefully. 2 people, maybe 3, moving through the trees. His first instinct wasn't relief. It was caution. Out here, people weren't always help. Sometimes they were problems. He stepped back toward the rail car, staying just out of sight. Watching. Waiting. Then they appeared. Hikers. Young. Equipped. Clearly not lost. They stopped when they saw the rail car. Then the garden. Then everything else. "What is this?" one of them said. Marcus stepped forward. Calm. Measured. "Private," he said simply. They turned startled but not aggressive. One of them, a woman in her late 20s, lowered her camera slightly. "Sorry, we didn't know anyone lived out here." Marcus studied them. They didn't look like trouble. Curious. Respectful. After a long moment, he nodded. Most people don't. They asked questions. Careful at first. Then more. How long had he been there? Did he build all of it? Did he live there alone? Marcus answered simply. No exaggeration. No performance. Just the truth. The woman with the camera kept looking around, shaking her head slightly. "This is incredible," she said. "You built all this yourself." Marcus shrugged. Didn't have much choice. Before they left, she asked one more question. "Can I take a picture?" Marcus hesitated. Not because he was afraid, but because he had spent so long unseen. Then he nodded. "One," he said. She took several. The moment passed quickly. They thanked him, promised not to disturb anything, and disappeared back into the trees. Marcus didn't think much of it at first. 3 days later, everything changed. It started with one person, then two, then more. People began showing up, carefully, respectfully, but intentionally. Word had spread. The photo had been posted online. A simple caption: "Found a man living off-grid in an abandoned railcar, and what he built is unreal." At first, Marcus didn't understand, didn't care. But then someone brought supplies. Not charity. Trade. "I saw your setup," a man said, setting down a bag. "I've got extra tools. Thought you might use them." Marcus looked at the tools, then at the man. "What do you want for them?" The man shook his head. "Nothing. Just respect." That was new. Over the next few weeks, more people came. Some brought seeds. Others brought materials. A few brought questions. And slowly, something unexpected happened. Marcus's isolated life became a place others wanted to learn from. Not pity, not sympathy, respect. A photographer returned, the same woman from before. This time, she stayed longer. Documented everything. "This isn't just survival," she told him. "This is design. Adaptation. It's a system." Marcus didn't see it that way. To him, it was just doing what needed to be done. But the world saw something else. Within months, his story spread far beyond the forest. Articles, videos, interviews requested. Marcus declined most of them. But one offer caught his attention. A small independent channel. Simple. No drama. Just storytelling. They offered something different. "Tell it your way," they said. "No edits to change your story." Marcus agreed. The video went live. And people listened. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was real. A man who lost everything and built something better without asking permission. Opportunities followed. Carefully chosen. People wanted to learn how he built it, how he survived, how he stayed steady. Marcus began sharing. Not everything, but enough. And for the first time since losing his old life, he had income again. Not from a job he hated, but from something he built. Something that couldn't be taken. Months later, standing outside the railcar, looking over the land he had shaped with his own hands, Marcus realized something simple. He had been abandoned, but he had never been finished. And now, for the first time in his life, everything he had was truly his. For a long time, Marcus believed the past would stay where it belonged. Behind him, buried somewhere between the man he used to be and the life he had built from nothing. But life doesn't always leave things buried. Sometimes, it brings them back. It was late afternoon when Marcus saw her, standing just beyond the edge of the clearing. Not moving, not calling out, just watching. He knew who it was. Immediately, even before she stepped forward. Lila. She looked different. Not just older. Worn. Like life had taken something from her the same way it had once taken everything from him. Marcus didn't rush forward. Didn't react. He just stood there steady. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them carried everything that had been said and everything that hadn't. "I didn't think I'd find you," she said finally. Her voice was quieter than he remembered. Marcus nodded once. Most people don't. She glanced around. At the rail car, the garden, the systems he had built piece by piece. "You did all this?" she asked. "Yes." Another silence. He didn't offer more. Didn't explain. "I saw your story," she said. "Online." Marcus didn't respond. "I didn't know," she started, then stopped. Didn't finish the sentence. Because there wasn't anything to finish. She took a step closer. Then another. Careful. Like she didn't know if she was allowed to be there. "I messed up," she said. "I know that doesn't fix anything." Marcus looked at her. Really looked. For the first time in a long time, he didn't see anger. He saw distance. Not hatred. Not pain. Just separation. "I didn't come here to take anything," she said quickly. "I just wanted to see if you were okay." Marcus let out a slow breath. I am, he said, and it was the truth. She nodded, eyes moving across everything again, trying to understand how the man she left behind had built something she couldn't. I lost everything, she said quietly. Marcus didn't react. I thought I was building something bigger, she continued, but it all fell apart. He had heard those words before, just in a different tone. She looked at him again. I guess now I know how it feels. Marcus paused, not because he didn't understand, but because he did, and that made the moment heavier. Maybe, he said slowly, but not the same way. She lowered her eyes, didn't argue. I'm not asking for anything, she said. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Marcus stood there quietly, for a long time. Then finally, he nodded. I heard you. That was it. No forgiveness speech. No dramatic moment. Just acknowledgement. Because sometimes, that's all there is. Lila took a small step back. I won't come back, she said. I just needed to say it. Marcus didn't stop her. Didn't follow. He just stood there as she turned and walked back into the trees. Gone the same way she had once left him. But this time, everything was different. Marcus didn't feel abandoned. He felt complete. That night, he sat outside the rail car. The fire low, the land quiet, and for the first time since that day on the road, he thought about it all. Not the anger, not the loss, but the distance between who he had been and who he had become. He had lost a home, but he had built a life. He had lost family, but he had found peace. And somewhere along the way, without even realizing it, he had stopped needing anything that could be taken from him. The rail car stood behind him, strong, worn, real, not perfect, but his. And Marcus Hale, the man who had once been left with nothing, had built something no one could take again. Not a house, not a story, a life. And that was more than enough. If you think your likes, your comments, or subscribing to this channel doesn't matter, they do matter, like you matter. But don't do it if it's too hard to focus when you're so tired of constantly hearing the same smash hit that like button and subscribe reminders. It's as if someone thinks you have a forgetful mind or don't know where the buttons are. We get it and understand if you're sick of hearing it or get too overwhelmed or just too tired and feeling down. We'd understand when at your weakest moments in life, doing much of anything else more but the bare minimum becomes draining or is too much of an inconveniences when you're already low on energy to do anything but try to relax and re-energize. So with that being said, know this: we truly hope you have a good year and a very comfortable restful day. Take care and truly thank you for listening to the video all the way to the very end.